Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to Wake Up with Edie Darling. I'm your host and ambassador of peace, Edie Darling, and I truly count it a joy and a blessing to speak life into your life. For the first-time listeners out there and for my valued and growing listening audience, I want to thank you for tuning in weekly. Now, before I get into today's inspiring episode, I would like to personally thank my husband, Chris Guay, for constantly encouraging me to walk out my God-given purpose. I would also like to thank the sponsors of the show, WUJM 99 Jams, The Bird, Groove Hub Nation, and Craig Daniels for their support. And to you, my listening audience, my desire is to awaken you to the awareness and knowledge that we are not alone. We are family, regardless of our race, our ethnic background, our cultural differences, our religious beliefs, our political affiliations, our sexual orientation. Whether we are rich or poor, we are one body. What happens to one impacts the lives of all. This show builds bridges of compassion for God's diverse people through faith, hope, and love. It encourages you on your journey to do more and be more in God. It will inspire and motivate you to think outside of tradition and prepare you for your greatest potential on becoming a well-rounded individual in mind, body, and soul by focusing on the here and now, the new day that you have been blessed to see. For the time is now to awaken your dormant gifts. This show also actively seeks to bridge the gap between community and law enforcement relations by bringing the community, leaders, citizens, and law enforcement together at a round table of peace to address any issue that negatively impacts our communities, impede the safety of all, inhibit investigation, hamper police relations, and tear at the very fiber of human conditions and jeopardize humanity. Now, on today's episode, we are having a conversation with Attorney Nick Fiorentino. Hold on, I'm butchering it, but he's going to pronounce it correct. Who is the managing partner at a law firm in Largo. Nick's practice represents individuals in need of legal services such as family law matters, personal injury, probate, wills and trusts, criminal law, and other civil matters. Nick not only litigates matters through trial, but also has been successful at resolving matters while obtaining the best outcome for his clients in and out of court. In addition, Nick is also a critical incident attorney for the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association and the Florida Police Benevolent Association and has completed the necessary training to become a Florida Supreme Court qualified arbitrator, serving currently as a certified Florida Supreme Court mediator in the area of family and marital law and a qualified parent coordinator for the Sixth Circuit. Nick and his wife, Mary, who is a nurse, are extremely active in the community, volunteering a great deal of their time for many organizational groups. Good morning, Nick. Thank you for coming on to Wake Up with Edie Darling and for introducing yourself to our listening audience. Now, Nick, pronounce your last name correctly.
Fiorentino.
That sounds so easy to say. So, Nick, I've listened to your bio. But let's talk about this for a moment. You grew up here in Pinellas County and went to local schools, right?
I was born in Massachusetts.
Okay.
But I came here to start a high school and went to Clearwater High.
Okay.
And all my college was local. St. Pete College, USF St. Pete, and then Stetson and Gulfport.
Wow. But okay, so what led you into becoming an attorney?
It's actually a very interesting story because I never had any desire to be an attorney growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't grow up in a family where everyone went to college and became attorneys and things like that. I was actually going to open a restaurant when I graduated high school.
Okay.
I was actually going to open it right around the corner here in Dunedin.
Yeah.
And I had started the process to do that when I graduated and was days away from opening.
Mm-hmm.
And things took a turn financially with the location and things like that. And I had to figure out how to get back on track and kind of get out of this restaurant I was going to be opening. And then after I did that, I had to determine what am I going to do next with my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I better go to college.
Yeah. That would be good.
So I never was on a track in high school to go to college. I didn't take those courses, SATs. I didn't do any of that traditional stuff.
Right.
So I called St. Pete College, St. Pete Junior College at the time.
Yeah.
And a lady answered the phone, and I said, I need to enroll there. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, and she said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. She said, well, what do you like to do? I said, I don't know. I said, I was never going down this path. And I said, but I just was working on all these contracts for a restaurant and all that. She goes, you should be a lawyer. And
Wow.
I said, okay. I said, how do I do that? She said, come here and get your associate degree, then transfer to USF St. Pete, get your bachelor's degree, and then go to Stetson Law School. And she made it sound so easy. And I have no idea who this lady was. She wasn't a career counselor. She was just the receptionist answering the phone that day. And I did what she said.
You know, when I think about something like that, when we talk about those chance encounters that kind of change the trajectory of our lives, here this woman on the other end of the phone, you don't know who she was, but almost like a little angel that was like whispering in your ear,
100%.
Hey, Nick, this is what I think you should do. But let's back up a moment for that, for the restaurant. What type of foods did you like?
It was going to be like an Italian deli restaurant type of place.
Wow. And look at how something that turned around, not having the finances to go forward with that, but really push you in a passion that has led you. How many years have you been operating in being an attorney?
This is my 20th year.
20 years. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go a little further with this. So what made you decide to go into family law?
Well, when I was going to USF, I decided I should, because I've never was exposed to law or the law practice, I figured I should try to learn some things about it. Mm-hmm. So I applied and was hired as an intern with the public defender's office here in the 6th Circuit, and they hired me as an interviewer. And I did that job for a year, and that job required me to go into the jail. I worked like 3 days a week, and I'd go and get a stack of new people who were arrested, go into the jail and do the interviews. And when I was doing those interviews, I was learning that, a lot of these people I was interviewing were 16, 17, 18 years old, and I was getting their history because the public defender needed to have maybe their only time that they have this client's information before they show up in court. So I had to kind of get a life history along with the history of why they were there. Yeah. And there seemed to be a pattern with these. They're adults, but they were children.
Right.
16, 17, 18.
Facing, I'm sure, adult charges.
Very much so.
But still 16 and 17 years old.
Yes.
Continue.
And so I would talk with them and kind of learn about them and learn that, how they got there, their life story, coming from broken homes, foster homes, things of that nature. And I thought with my law career, I would be able to help them in a sense by helping people have better divorces. Yeah. Where they weren't as contested, where parents were involved on both sides. Right. Where it wasn't just, single mom, single dad raising the children.
Right. So with that being said, you have a passion though of, you not just being in family law, but you have a passion as a, I forgot what the terminology is for the youth and working in the community representing, but what else is there that you like to do in the community?
Well, through Rotary, we do a lot with children in foster care. So, raising money to get them presents at Christmas time, things like that. But also through Rotary, I've been exposed to other programs like Ready for Life, which is a great program here in Pinellas County, which helps kids aging out of foster care. Yeah. A friend a fellow Rotarian had invited me there to meet with them and see their program. And when it's sitting there with the director, she had told me one of the biggest issues is kids age out of foster care at 18. Yes. So I didn't know that. That was just something I learned that day. And it was, again, another wake-up call of, oh, that's interesting. We got to do something about that. What we learned was, even if a kid's in high school doing great, the day they turn 18, they potentially no longer have a home, no matter how long they were in that home or how well it was going. So a lot of families don't have the license to allow them to keep kids past 18, or you have to have a special license, then you can't keep other kids who are under 18 because there's certain requirements. Right. So these kids at 18 pretty much are said, it's been great having you, and they're sent on their way. Wow. And they need to find ways. There's stipends for, college and things like that, but not for a place to live or, there's homes, there's places they can go, but they're full. They're not the best places. Right. And so learning about that was important to, the needs of these kids, clothes, food, learning to cook, life skills, depending on where they grew up. There's a lot of things they need to learn, how to manage money, things like that.
And then you're also serving as a guardian ad litem.
Well, I serve on the board. I was a guardian ad litem in college.
Okay.
And then I'm a guardian ad litem as an attorney in family law cases.
Mm-hmm.
But I also serve on a board for Hero to a Child,
mm-hmm.
which is formerly the Guardian ad litem Foundation. And what that program does is it supports the guardian ad litem program, kids who are in foster care. And through that, that program provides for the kids. When kids are removed from the home, they don't always have clothing, diapers, things like that. People often hear about Hero to a Child and Guardian ad litem Foundation and think about, toys at Christmas and,
mm-hmm.
That sort of thing, which is great. It's a great thing to do, but there's day-to-day needs.
Mm-hmm.
Kids who don't have diapers, don't have clothes. We pay for kids to go to summer camp, to get counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Kids who are in separate homes because kids get split up when they put in foster care.
Yeah.
We do different events to kind of bring them together so that the different foster parents or guardians can bring them to a location and have a pizza party or different events like that.
So I heard you say you started off as a guardian ad litem, in college. What was it about it that why was it important to you?
Learning. It was something new that I never knew about growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So learning about this program that you're the voice of the child in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
So you're allowed to go into the courtroom as a guardian and speak for the child. You get to interview everyone involved in the case, the parents, school teachers, the child, doctors, and you get to produce a report and go into court and tell the judge what's in that child's best interests.
That's amazing to me because, as we know, there are adults who don't have a voice. But when we have children who find themselves in situations that they didn't ask to be in, but that they have someone who's willing to stand up and be their voice, that is so admirable. So I want to tell you personally, thank you for that.
Thank you. And it's a great program, and they're always looking for volunteers. So if somebody's retired and looking for some way to give back, or even working there's ways to give back to this program and be a volunteer guardian. You take as many or as few as cases as you'd like, and it really benefits the kids here in Pinellas County. And Pasco, it's a 6th Circuit program.
Wow. So let's talk about the progression of your career. Okay, so you went from being a lawyer to being a mediator to being a parent coordinator. So let's talk about that for a moment. Tell us about that.
So in practicing family law, you see a lot of conflict. You see a lot of conflict created by the parties, and I was trying to find a way to, again, help these kids and help reduce conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became a mediator so that I could help parties come together and resolve conflicts. And then parent coordination, which is for really high conflict parents who can't even say hello to each other and be in the same room together. You bring them together to kind of teach them the tools that they need to co-parent. Right. To be co-parents in the best interest of their kids so that they can have a conversation about which dentist to go to or what shoes to buy the child. And there's parents who can't even have these conversations. And so being a parent coordinator allows you to bring them in and have the hard conversations about what they're doing to the child and how to potentially help that child be raised in a better two-parent or a two-household family.
Yeah. Whether they are together or whether they are separated, it's not even about them anymore. It's about the well-being of that child.
Right.
And so that's what I hear you saying, is that you are helping them communicate properly. And sad, we know this. Oftentimes I'm sure that there's violence that may have happened or why they can't communicate the way that they can. But to have someone such as yourself be able to sit at the table and say, hey, let's push past all these things and look for the betterment of the child. So let's go back to the children for a moment. So, here you're sitting and you're talking to these kids, and you said that there's that commonality that you've heard that many of them grew up in maybe abusive homes or, foster care, or whatever the case may be. But again, what was it for you that you felt that it was necessary for you to be that voice?
In talking with them, I didn't see, and I know now in this field, there's a lot of people out there trying to help. Mm-hmm. At the time, I hadn't been exposed to it. So I didn't know what was out there, what organizations were out there. what professionals were out there. And I just thought it was something that I could do. Again, it was kind of an emotional pull of, you can do something to help this situation.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you can't solve every problem going on,
Absolutely.
but if you can help a few people along the way,
yeah.
I mean, that was kind of the goal in wanting to do family law, and then that progression. And one of the things, mentioned about what happens is, or that we look at in family law, is what's called ACEs is a big thing now, adverse childhood experiences, and how those affect children growing up. Trauma, violence in the house, drug abuse, all those different things, and how they affect the children long term. And there's a big focus in the courts now, thanks to one of our judges locally, Judge Jack Hellinger, to really focus on these ACEs and how we can help kids with these to start building resiliency through positive community experiences.
Right. And I think that's so powerful, because we don't realize, as adults or even as young people, the words or the actions of our own hand and how that will impact a child for their betterment of their future. So the fact that there are organizations that are out here that are helping them to look past that pain and move forward, and potentially become an attorney such as yourself to help others.
Right. I mean, I grew up in a divorced household. My parents divorced when I was 7.
Yeah.
And, that probably factored into wanting to do this sort of work as well as I learned about it.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about this next. You've progressed from being a lawyer to being a mediator to being a parent coordinator. What's next?
Well, my plan now is to run for judge. So I am running for a circuit court judge position here, it's for Pasco and Pinellas. So the voters of Pasco and Pinellas will be able to vote for me. And the reason I decided to do that is there's a few reasons, but the main was, a few years ago I had a court hearing in Tampa before a judge, and it was a custody case for a modification of child custody. And these parents got along okay, but Dad, who I represented in that situation, was an awesome father. Former military, just really involved with his kids. And we had a hearing, a all-day trial, and the judge didn't want to hear the evidence. We had a halt set for all day, and we ended up ending about 4 hours early because the court didn't want to hear more. The judge had decided the case, more or less, and didn't want to hear everything we had to present. And when the order was issued in that case, the parents had been sharing 50-50 custody based on their agreement. The court awarded the mom pretty much all of the time sharing, but there was no evidence to support it. And pretty much all the evidence we had presented had been ignored. It wasn't evaluated based on the final judgment we received.
Right.
And so this client didn't have a lot of money, and I volunteered at that point to appeal their case, which is a very expensive process. And we appealed that case and won. And the appellate court actually overturned almost every single ruling the judge had issued, so that the child was back to 50-50, sharing the home with both parents, had siblings in the father's home that she had been torn away from. And it was just a life-changing moment for all of them to be able to get the child back in the home with them. And it just showed me how important it was to have judges who listen to the facts and apply the law correctly, and do what's in the best interest of the children in those cases.
I'll be the first one to tell you that I don't personally get into politics, but what I can tell you is when I hear individuals who want to do something right, when I look at our Constitution and when I think about the liberty of truth, justice for all, that you want to do it the right way. So that is important for, I believe, our listening audience to be able to say, I want somebody who's going to hear me, they're going to see me, and they're going to feel me. And for you to volunteer your time is just amazing, because not everybody will do something like that. But there had to be something for you that just said, you know what, I'm not taking that, and I now want to take this a step further. What more can I do to impact our community?
Right. And that's been kind of the progression of my career. It's, starting off as a lawyer and then a mediator, parent coordinator, now wanting to be a judge. It's just been the natural progression of my career, because along the way I thought going to the next step would help benefit the people that I represent, or as a judge, the people I would serve.
So if people wanted to reach you, how would they reach you?
So we have a website for our campaign,
Mhm.
which is Fiorentino, Fiorentino, for judge, the number 4judge.com.
Well, I want to first of all thank you so much, Nick, for coming on to Wake Up with Edie Darling. Um, for you, listening audience, if you have a unique story of how you or your community turned a negative situation around through faith, hope, and love, I would like to hear from you. Email me at awakenyourdormantgifts@gmail.com. Please don't forget to follow me on social media. Also, if you feel your community, business, organization, or government entity are stuck and can't seem to move forward for the sake of all, and you desire a peaceful resolution, I am here for you. But before we end this episode, I would like to leave you with this parting prayer. Father God, we come before you as humbly as we can, seeking you right now. You know the needs of your people. Your people are hurting, crying, and are simply lost without you. Touch the hearts of those serving in the legal field, attorneys and judges who are willing to speak truth and only truth, for it is that truth that sets captives free. Guide those serving as representatives in the legal field to have a heart of service that is pleasing unto you, Lord. Protect them, humble them, and reassure them that you are there every step of the way. May they never be ashamed to call on your name in times of need. Now, in times of trouble, where legal counsel is necessary, equip your servants with the ability and willingness to stand up for those who are unable to stand for themselves and to boldly speak for those who are unable to speak for themselves. Father, we pray. Amen.